So, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Chronic Fatigue and Burnout Recovery podcast. Today is actually a very exciting episode because I have my very first podcast guest, and I would love to introduce you to Ellen Murray. Ellen is a mindset and empowerment coach for women who are just totally overwhelmed with life, and their mind and their body is just telling them, like, enough is enough. They have to make a change. And I think that probably comes from Ellen's experience also with life, which she's going to share with you in a moment. But I've known Ellen for quite some time. Long before I had chronic fatigue syndrome, I used to run a weight loss program, and I also did retreats. And Ellen actually came on a retreat that I ran in Italy in, I think it was 2016. And that was also before Ellen had her own chronic fatigue diagnosis. And then since then, we both went our own ways and we lived very busy lives, doing very busy things, and then both kind of started to become unwell at the same time, and then actually ended up working together again for a little while as Ellen was recovering. So that's just a brief introduction. But the reason why I wanted to get Ellen on the show is actually, there's so many reasons why I wanted to get Ellen on the show because she's amazing. But it was also because I had this question through my social media about how do you manage fatigue recovery alongside also being a mom and having small children. And I thought, I'm not really qualified to answer this question, but I know someone who is, and that someone is Ellen. So she's also here to touch on that today, but she's also going to touch on her story, the things that have helped her recover, and also what she's doing now and how she helps other people. So that's a very long introduction, Ellen, but welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for the great introduction too.
How does it feel to be the first podcast guest?
Well, I didn't actually know I was the first, but yeah, it's an absolute honour. Thank you so much.
Yeah, when I decided to do the podcast and I was starting to create like a little list of who I wanted to get on the show, you were like at the top of the list. So
Oh,
yeah, I'm really excited for this. I think it's going to be amazing. I think you've got so much wisdom to share just from your own journey, but also from your work as a coach as well, and the work you're doing with other women. So really, over to you. Do you want to start at the beginning and tell us a little bit about your story? I know this could be a very long story because I know the story already, but in a nutshell, as much as you can, tell us a little bit about how you've arrived here today.
okay. So, where to begin? I've, like yourself, I've always been very driven and very passionate about growth and achieving and moving forward with things. So that played out as me being a business owner. I had a women's fitness business around boot camps. We were all across the northwest, really, across Merseyside. And this just grew and grew from this place of passion and drive to the point where I had a team of staff and I think we had 400 members, but we'd impacted thousands of women who came through our program, and I absolutely loved that business. It was my baby, it was my passion, and that grew and grew and grew. And then children came along, and I actually found out I was pregnant on your retreat, didn't I?
Yes, I didn't want to say that because I thought that's your information to share. But yes, it was on that retreat that you found out you had Max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And up until that point, my business had it had been my everything. Obviously, my partner, my husband was, huge in that, but he was part of the business. So my business consumed my life, and it was amazing because it was impacting so many women, but it was on a personal level giving me so much. And it's only now looking back I realise how unhealthy that actually was. Um, and then Max came along, which was, if there's any parents listening, like, your whole world changes as soon as that little bundle arrives. And things started to shift for me then. It was like, how do I balance having this massive business with this baby who I want to be my everything now. And saying that out loud, I can recognize that it's that very much that all or nothing mindset that I used to have, of everything had to have 100% of me. And that was quite a big shift for me, having a child. And that was probably the start of me going downhill a little bit health wise, because just less than 2 years later my second child came along, Grace. And I'd learned a few lessons after having Max. I was like, this time I'm not gonna push myself so much to keep everything going the way it is. I'm gonna step back and have a bit of a rest and enjoy being a mum. And then 4 weeks after that, one of my staff left, and I decided to, out of a place of fear, step back into my business, fully supporting women. You know, having the two kids under two, fully supporting 50 women at a time. And then I didn't fit anywhere into this. It was just doing, and very quickly my body started to show me signs that you can't do this. But being the way I was like, that's not an option.
Yeah.
You just keep
And
going.
what were those kind of early warning signs? Because I think we all had them, right? There were all these little niggles, and we just kept on pushing through. So what was sort of telling you at the time, but you were sort of pushing it down and keeping on going?
Um, for me, it was always, and this has continued to be one of my first signs, it's mouth ulcers, sore throats, and just this feeling of like, like when you get in flu or a cold, just that feeling, really swollen glands. But it was always the ulcers and the sore throat, which was my first niggly sign. Um, and looking back, I probably had those every single month, even before children. Like my body would be like, every time, like just before my period or during my period, I would get ulcers. But just push through it. But then it got more and more, and it was definitely was every month, when these signs started to first come. But I would just drink a bottle of Lucozade and leave that. Right, come on, because when you're showing up to help other people gain energy through fitness, and you kind of got to be that high vibe person all the time, and the person who's full of energy. And I really didn't feel that, so I was like, right, I need to give myself that energy. Oh, I'll just drink some Lucozade and then jump around on a stage. And yeah, so that's where it started. And I knew something wasn't right. But I just was like, I've got two young kids, I'm running a business, I've got a lot of people relying on me, this is just how it is. But I look back at my journal from that time, this was 2019, and it very much, I was, that higher self knew something wasn't right. And I was like writing, like, this just feels too much, but I don't know how to change it. And I started to get a bit of anxiety, and I couldn't work out where it was. If I'd had anxiety in the past, it was usually like something had triggered it, but it was just like this lingering feeling of anxiety, which just wasn't like me. So that was probably a sign as well, something was out of alignment. And then we got to lockdown in 2020, and I just upped my workload again in that January. So I was doing a lot more high energy exercise, teaching that, and then lockdown hit, and I think just the stress of that, getting a business, going from this really big business to moving it online, and trying to make sure that everyone else was okay, like the staff were looked after, the members. I think subconsciously, my body was just like, this is too much. And after 3 months, I got the familiar sore throat, but my body just wouldn't let me carry on. And it just went on and on and on. It was probably, I think it was like 4 weeks, and I was like, it's still here. I still feel like I've got flu. I feel exhausted. I couldn't teach any classes. I could barely look after the children. It was just, and then that was the start of like the chronic fatigue.
And then you got a diagnosis quite quickly, didn't you?
Well, that was the June of 2020, and I went through all the motions of going to the GP, having all these tests. And then I think it was about the October I went, and they sent me to is it rheumatology?
Yeah.
department, and they were like, "Oh no, you haven't got any muscle pains, or you haven't got anything here," and they just kind of like dismissed it. And I just thought, is this worth going back and just being sent for another test? I knew something. It was something more. It wasn't a purely physical thing. Um, and at that point, I gave up with the doctors and I started to explore other options. And then at the following February, I was just reached rock bottom, and that's when I came to you. And it was during that time of you that I did get that official diagnosis as
Ah,
well.
yeah, sorry, I can't remember the timeline exactly. And so, when you were at your rock bottom, that was when what did you say that was like February 2021? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And what had you been trying up until that point to support yourself?
To be honest, I think I was still in denial at that point, because I'd closed my business the a few months previous, because I knew that I just couldn't. Even though I had a team of staff who could have done it for me, when you're the director, the owner, you need that energy and that passion to drive it forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just didn't have anything in me. So we made the decision to close it, but because I was still a bit in denial, I thought, oh, I'll be able to do it on a smaller scale. It's just stress this. Once that stress has gone, I'll be fine. And I soon realised it wasn't the stress, it was actually my body was like literally in shutdown. Um, so I did try and push through for a bit and carry on because I didn't know what was going on for me. So I hadn't actually really tried anything apart from taking time off, taking rests, but I didn't really understand the condition at that point.
Yeah, I resonate with that so much as well. And I think that denial phase is like it's the first stage in like a grieving process. The first stage of grief is denial. And I think, when I hear your story and you had this massive, huge, successful business, and to a certain extent, you were like flying high and, leading all these women, doing something that you loved, and then to have to give all of that up and sort of face the reality of that, there's obviously going to be some grief there. And yeah, and then kind of going into that denial, it's almost kind of like self-protective, isn't it? Because it sort of protects you from really realizing the enormity of the situation all at once, because it's a lot, right, to handle all at once, to accept all the different changes. There was a lot of change.
Yeah, absolutely. To add to that, it's like other people not understanding like why you're making these decisions. Like,
Mm.
I heard of so many people, or have you just lost your passion for it? And it was like, I have got nothing in me anymore. It's not lack of passion. I am just so drained, you know?
Yeah. And I can imagine how upsetting that must be to hear, like, oh, have you just lost your passion? When you're like, no, the passion is there, just like burning so bright, but my body is just not able to keep up with it. And that's a very frustrating place to be as well.
Yeah, yeah. But you're absolutely right. The grief, that was definitely the first stage of grief for me, was the denial.
Yeah, I think I lived in that stage for about a year. So I totally get it. And I think it was because I was kind of just like probably maybe about a year, a couple of years, oh no, about a year ahead of you, is that like the whole of I was sort of like in that kind of denial process for the whole of 2019. And then when lockdown happened, everybody was kind of grieving the losses of lockdown. That's when I realized, oh, that's what I've been doing for the past year, because having like chronic fatigue syndrome is like being locked down in your body. So it's like when lockdown happened, I was like, oh, now everybody gets to know how I've been feeling for the past year. But
Yeah,
yeah, it took me a really long time to move through that denial stage.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And so you said, I think you said then at that point, then you came to me and we worked together for a little bit. And what kind of changed for you there? I know you've actually done a lot of other things since, which we can talk about as well. But what was the shift that happened then?
Um, do you know what? I always say this to you, Anna, but I am forever grateful to you, because I think without you, I probably wouldn't have even fully accepted it. I'd have probably kept pushing through and just going round in circles, and I don't know where I would have ended up. But when we started working together, it was almost like I finally had that validation. Like, actually, something is physically wrong here. Something's not right, and you really helped me to understand what was going on in my body. And through that understanding came like almost the power to go, yeah, I can. Now I know what's going on. I can help myself. But without
Yeah.
that knowledge, you can't help yourself.
No, absolutely. And so what were the big changes that you made, or the changes that you made that you found the most beneficial?
That's a really great question. I think the first one was actually stepping away from that denial and a bit of acceptance, which is,
Mm,
very it's not linear, is it? The acceptance part,
definitely not.
but almost like just taking that step back and going, actually, there is something here. I need to take my foot off the gas of what I'm trying to achieve and do in life, and honour myself of where I'm at right now. And that for me meant taking time fully out of work and business. I had started my life coaching business, but I just stepped back from it and thought, I can't give to others when I'm feeling like this. Um, but you, with through working with you, you really helped me with like not only that side of it, but like the practical side of how I support my body. So, like doing the testing that we did, and getting the right supplements, getting the right diet. That was a big part of it.
I remember you were such a great client to work with because you just wanted to do all the tests. You're like, I'm just going to throw everything at it. You did like, I think you did about 3 different tests, like all in one go, boom, boom, boom. And I think that was really great just to get like an overview of what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still that mindset. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well.
Yeah, 100% black or white, all or nothing. Um, which is not actually such a bad thing in that case. I think it's just also we can't only apply that like when we're like getting tests and getting information that can be quite helpful, but then if we're like too all or nothing in our healing journey, it's that's actually inherently stressful for the body.
Yeah, and that's something I went on to learn, which I'm so grateful that I did, because it's such a nicer place to be when you don't have that inherent like drive for it to be all or nothing and perfect and 100%,
Yeah,
I am glad I did the testing and, really looked at my diet. And again, you introduced me to yin yoga, which I've absolutely fallen in love with.
I
Oh,
love yin.
honestly, it's literally changed my life. Love it, and meditation.
Yeah, I love yin yoga. And actually, it might be worth mentioning. Did you want to talk a little bit about the documentary? Because I know there's a little yin yoga snippet in the documentary as well.
Yeah, so I'd only shared little bits of the journey on social media because before this I was quite, energetically out there on social media. But when you're going through something like this, I feel you just want to retreat and don't want to. I felt very vulnerable during this time, so I only shared very little bits on social media. But a guy approached me. He was doing some producing. He works at the BBC, but he wanted to do like a project on the side and asked if I would share my journey via a documentary, which is the most random thing ever. But I was like, "Would you know what? If it can help others, then I'll absolutely do it." So yeah, basically, this guy followed me around on a few things, and we went to yin yoga because that's been such a part of my journey. I just shared really what had gone on for me, and interviewed my husband as well, who still thinks it's like burnout, bless him. But that was actually a really healing thing for me to do, was share the journey, because it was part of me owning what had actually gone on and
Mm.
accepting it a little bit more.
Yeah, and also having a voice to just express yourself, I think, as well is very, very powerful.
Yeah, because I think so much of like that is tied into this condition, is like feeling that it's a lot tied into like the self-worth and not feeling like you want to take up space and use your voice and give it over giving. And
Yeah, and then on the other side, not really being understood by other people as well. So there's like you can express yourself, but then not really feel seen and heard. So having a documentary platform is brilliant to make sure that people see and hear you.
Yeah, it did bring up a lot for me though, those vulnerabilities and that not wanting to be seen and heard. But
Mm.
I am glad that I did it.
Yeah. And so I know we only worked together for quite a short amount of time. I think it was like we did a 12-week package at the time. And you've also gone on to do a lot of other things. You mentioned the yin yoga and the meditation. And I think reflexology has been really, really helpful for you. But what else have you found to be like kind of the big things that have made the biggest difference for you on the journey?
I think for me, so much of it has been in the mindset work. It's been the whole surrendering, letting go. For so long on the journey, with this type of condition, when you don't, I felt incapable, and I felt like, how am I going to support the family? How are we going to pay our mortgage? Like that was what was running through my head all the time. And then this kind of feeling just came to me one day, and it was like, you need to surrender, you need to let go, you need to just trust that you're on the path you need to be on by looking after yourself. And when I did that, it was like something inside shifted and like my body just settled. And it was like none of that external stuff is important if you are not well and you can't function. Like just let it go. And that's really hard to do.
As you were saying, I really felt that, and also thinking, yes, that is such a hard thing to do, is to just let go and trust.
It takes you to places that you've not had to go before, like spiritually, emotionally. And I'm so grateful for that now, because I feel like I've learned so many lessons about trust and about getting out of the doing and the achieving, and that it's a much nicer place to be to operate from.
And I'm curious, do you ever feel that like I mean, at least I know I feel that that achiever part, she's tamed, but she's still very much there. And I'm just curious if what your experience is now with those parts of you that were so dominant and so strong before.
I think that she's definitely still there as well. But I think she's just like she's operating from a healthier place now. She's not like trying to dominate.
Mm,
Because I like that part of myself, but just not when it's overpowering. So it's still
yeah.
there, but there's also, in all honesty, a bit of fear tied up with that. I don't want her to run the show anymore, so I can find myself holding back a little bit now out of fear.
Mm,
But I'm sure that's just kind of normal part of the healing journey of, just doing things gently because I'm
yeah.
so cautious of not going all in on things now.
Yeah, and I think there's also that kind of like that sort of all or nothing where we're all an achiever and then we can really pull all the way across to the other side, but there's kind of like a calibration that needs to happen. So sort of swings a bit over to one side and then it swings back and you're just trying to find that sort of okay place for her to be.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where I'm at right now. And I'm okay with that because I feel grateful that I am at that I'm not at the I can't do anything and I don't want to do anything because I'm scared. It's like I'm just testing the waters.
Yeah, exactly. And is there anything else you wanted to share that was helpful for you in the journey?
I think the meditation has been a massive part of it, just because of like what it actually does to the body, like
And
and
what type of meditation do you use or do you do?
I go between a few really. I've done a few meditation weekends, where I've learned more about meditation and been really embodied in that. So that was like silent meditation where you're just working through like a process. So it's a lady called Claire Morton. I did her meditation course, and it's just like working through a sense checking and then holding on to a mantra, and I find that really powerful. And then I do like the yoga nidra YouTube meditations, and Abraham Hicks. I like that meditation, the well-being one. So yeah, it's a mixture of guided and then just like non-guided ones. Also the breath work I found really, really beneficial. I loved doing your breath work. And it's definitely something I want to do more of. That's
Yeah, it integrates very well with the coaching as well, I find, the breath work. Sometimes you just need clients to like get it all out in a breath work session and then they can feel really good after.
yeah. So it's definitely something I'm looking more into now for myself and for clients.
Yeah. And I think the big question that like a lot of my followers on social media have is that it's obviously really hard. I mean, it's like I don't have children, and it's still just hard to prioritize what you need to do for yourself in your healing journey. How did you manage that alongside Max and Grace? Because how old were they when you first became unwell?
They were 1 and 3.
Yeah, so just little.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it is challenging, because as a mum, it's just your absolute instinct to nurture, to give, to put them before you. And I think it's a really tough question to answer because I feel like I just carried on with them, but there were points where I was like, I'm gonna have to ask for support here. Like my husband's great, but he was working as well. So it really was about asking for help, which probably went against everything I'd operated from for years. But family, like just had to ask for help from them. And they were really supportive, even though I had that mum guilt. I had to just really tell myself, like, if I don't do this, it's selfish, because then they're not going to have a mum there who's going to be able to look after them. By giving myself that like 3 hours, if my mum would say I'll have them for the afternoon, by giving myself that 3 hours, it's like recharging so that I can give them something. Whereas if you're trying to just give, and then you've just got nothing, then they do suffer. But it was also being quite strict with myself, like when they've gone to bed, making sure I go to bed, things like that, instead of the usual, oh, but this is the only time you get to yourself. It's like, no, prioritize things that are going to help with your healing, like sleep and relaxation. And I did have to make some changes, like childcare wise. So with Max, he kind of stayed. He didn't go in full time until he went to school. Whereas with Grace, I've had to put her in full time nursery earlier than I would have liked to. So there was a bit of guilt that came with that, but I did notice a big shift in my healing and my energy when she went full time to nursery, because it gave me a bit of time back to focus on myself and do all these things, like go to yoga and have the meditation time, and just have a better balance.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's sort of like doing the things you don't want to do, but then when you realize that they actually are helping, that creates more incentive to keep on doing them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just that awareness of that mum guilt, which so many people experience. It's almost irrational at times, and it's just by like having that like dialogue with yourself of, well, actually, what are they going to gain from this? What am I going to gain by putting yourself first?
Yeah, and I can imagine there's a lot of cultural conditioning as well. Like I saw, some meme or whatever on social media, which is like they expect women to work like they don't have children and raise their children like they don't have to work. And there's definitely like a huge demand culturally on women to just show up and be perfect and high performing in all areas of life. And I think there's like that external pressure that sort of cultural conditioning puts on us, and then there's the pressure we're putting on ourselves. And sometimes the guilt is just that, like, it's just kind of going against the grain of what the conditioning is, and it doesn't feel good, but sometimes you just like have to tolerate that feeling a little bit so that you can actually have the bigger picture, as you say, which is by doing this I'm actually going to be more nourished myself and then be able to show up.
Absolutely. And I come across women, they might not have like any sort of chronic illness, but they're experiencing the exact same feelings around this, of they're trying to be superwoman in the career and be the same at home, and there's just not enough of them to go around, and they're just exhausted and on the brink of burnout. Like literally at my women's circle last night, there was so many women in the room saying the exact same thing, but it's only by talking to other women who feel the same that they're like, oh, it's not just me who's just not,
Mm.
because you think everyone's coping and they're really not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like obviously like, you know, your body to a certain extent like really broke down, but in a way it was also that's just what it needed to do to get your attention so that you could learn these lessons and then I guess help other women now as well, even though they may be not experiencing the exact same thing as you. It's all the same patterns playing themselves out in different ways in different bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, what you said, what really shifted something for me was when you said your body is working for you here, Ellen. It's like it's not giving up on you. It's doing this because it's working well. It's showing you something's not right, and you need to look at it. And this is the only way you're going to look at it because it's screaming. And I was like, oh yeah, like thanks, body. Whereas before I'd been going, oh, my body's giving up. It's not fair, and it was a big shift for me that.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because like if we can really appreciate our body as our friend that is there, like there's an intelligence there that is really supporting us, that the relationship we have with the condition changes. And I think that's quite important is to, not feel angry or have self-blame, but understand that there's actually something very, very important and beautiful happening. As
Yeah,
hard as it is sometimes to accept that.
yeah. But I think that's such a big part in the healing journey as well, of like, when your body does start telling you something. Like I used to think, oh no, it's coming, but now we're looking at, oh, what could that mean? Like what have I not what have I been doing, or what's not quite right here? And like using it as a friend, like listening to it like you would a friend and going, oh, what do you need?
Yeah, absolutely.
Different way of being, isn't it?
Yeah, and so have there been any other big lessons? And I kind of feel like we're touching on them now anyway, but have there been any big lessons from the journey?
Oh gosh.
Or how much time have we got?
I think it's for me, it's just big lessons about who you are as a person. Like for me, it's really made me evaluate why I operated in that way. So it's leaning into who you are and why you do what you do and unpicking that. It's like really giving me this opportunity to go, that part of you, that pattern doesn't serve you, let that one go. That doesn't serve you. Oh, that works well for you. And it's almost like you're taking pieces of yourself and rebuilding them into something that you want, the person you want to be.
Mm,
Like, we get conditioned, and through traumas and experiences we become a person. Often it's like, out of survival, and unconscious. But now it's like I feel so conscious, and that feels really empowering. Uh,
mm.
so it's being able to fully step into who you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just hearing you talk, I think of this analogy of like if you just say you've built a house, but the house has just been built by all these like funny little bricks and things that we've just taken over time, like to survive so that we could have the stability of the house. And then something like a chronic illness just comes and knocks the whole house down, and there's like bricks everywhere. But then you get to consciously choose, like, I'm going to take this brick and put it here, and I'm going to throw those bricks away, and in doing so you build like a house which is much more like stable and structured and like exactly how you want it to be.
Oh, that's such a great analogy. I love that. And I
Yeah.
remember another one you said, I think it was in one of your workshops, and it was about pulling out the weeds,
Oh, yes.
and then, you know, planting the seeds that you want and watering them. And I thought that really resonated for me.
Yeah, we need to water the things that are important.
Yeah.
So what is life like now? Like, how are you doing with your recovery? What does your day look like, and how does that differ from your previous life?
So recovery wise, I'm always scared of like jinxing it, but I feel like I've reached a point where I'm like, I've got the baseline right now. So I know what I need to do each day to support myself with feeling healthy and energetic. So that's like, having a good diet, meditating daily, good sleep, movement that feels appropriate. So that's been a big change for me. I was used to exercising at high intensity as part of my job. I'm still not there with that yet, and I'm still working on that, but I'm happy with where that is. Like I love doing my yoga and my walking. My work life, it's just so much more balanced. So now I'm coaching women one-to-one, and I just really love that. I just think this was like my calling for a long time, but because my business was so big and consuming, it didn't give me that space to, or I didn't give that space to explore this route. So it's really given me the push now to do that. So my days are like, yeah, really well balanced. I get to do the school runs, and I base my business in the school hours, seeing clients and working on my business. But I switch off now as well. Like I don't have that, that thing running in the background all the time about my work and my business. It's like I'm able to compartmentalize things now. It just feels a lot healthier. But yeah, very much prioritize the things that support my well-being. It's like a non-negotiable for me now. Like in the past, I wouldn't even go for a walk. I'd be at my desk all day, then I'd go out and teach in the evenings, whereas I couldn't even think about doing that now.
Yeah.
Not getting out for a walk or stopping. It's just like a completely different way of being. I don't try to control outcomes as much.
Yeah. And do you find it's easier now that Max and Grace are at school that you have the more time for yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So those like physical realities have made a difference, and now they're, they're 3 and 5 now. So even though they're still really young, just having them at school has been a big difference. Just giving me that bit more balance.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And so tell us a little bit more about your business and what you do. There may be, I think you said for you, the mindset side of things was really, really one of the most powerful things in your recovery. And I'm assuming now that that's a lot of what you teach other women, whether they have a chronic health condition or they're just burning out. So tell us a bit more about that.
yeah, so a lot of the women who come to me like are like past versions of me. They're in the same patterns of overgiving, overworking, holding themselves to these really high standards of giving everything 100% perfection, all of those traits. So yeah, my work with them, like when they come to me, it's usually like they're at a point where they know something's got to change, but they're just so overwhelmed they can't see the wood for the trees. So my work with them, I kind of take them on a process of initially just addressing the things that can bring a little bit of calm, and then we start doing the deeper stuff of why they're doing what they're doing, what limiting beliefs are there, what programming, usually what's stuck in the body as well, because they're so stuck in like numbing emotions and not fully feeling. Um, so a lot of it is about connecting back to the body and the heart, and I love that stuff. That really lights me up. And then getting them to a point where once they feel that they're more balanced and the calm, the nervous system settled, and then we start looking at what like thriving looks like for them, so they can get back to that thriving, but from a healthier place.
Mm.
Thriving from these must be perfect,
Yeah, it sounds like, just from my understanding of the nervous system as well, as you're kind of bringing them to a place of more regulation so then they can like create that future from a more regulated place. Because if you'd done it at the very beginning of the journey with them, they would just be wanting to like all those achiever perfectionist patterns would be trying to create the future. And those are the patterns that you sort of want to tame a little bit more before you start looking ahead to what thriving really looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And it blows my mind how quickly this can happen once they have that awareness.
And the support from you, no doubt.
Oh. But I really love it. I really, really do love it. I love seeing other people, thrive and, feel. I love helping them to realize that there's another way. Like because it's an exhausting way of living, isn't it? When you're
Mm.
driving all the time for perfection, and it's just liberating when you can let that go a little bit, but still achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's probably like people like you and I were like natural healers. So we always just want to like, help people see that they don't have to live in pain, that there's another way, and that there's, as you said, there's a way out, and that things don't have to continue to be the way that they are.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm actually doing a bit more training at the moment, training to be a counsellor just to, I think it works really well. I want to do some trauma work as well, become trauma informed, because again, that's been a big part of my journey of, healing that and working through it. And like the breath work and the yoga, I think just all of it together just is so powerful. And I think like that's a big part of what you've done, isn't it? The stuff that helped you and you've trained in it, um, to bring it all together eventually.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like you're building an amazing business. And how does it feel? I'm just curious now, thinking about your previous business. Is there still like a wanting to go back to like working, like teaching classes or doing anything like that? Or do you feel like now what you're doing is the next sort of evolution of your journey?
I definitely feel like this is the next evolution. This is the stuff that really I feel really passionate about. I don't have any desire to go back to the old business. I mean, I still love my dancing and my dance fitness, and that's like I do that for pure joy and fun. Um, I don't know if I could do that just yet, but maybe that will be something I do in the future for fun. But from a business perspective, this is the stuff that lights me up, and I think it's so needed right now. I think it's really powerful work.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And if someone is listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I need Ellen in my life, how can people work with you? How can they find out more about what you do?
So they can connect with me on either Facebook or Instagram. I'm just getting my website done at the moment, so it's not live yet. So, but I'm just Ellen Murray Coaching on Instagram and Ellen Murray on Facebook.
Yeah, and we'll put those in the show notes as well.
Oh, fab! Yeah.
Okay, good. And is there anything else that you wanted to share? Any sort of last words of wisdom or messages that you'd like to give out?
I think it's just anyone who is going through it, like it can be such a scary, scary, lonely place to be. And I just want to say, don't give up hope because reaching a level of recovery is possible. And I think that hope is everything. When the doctors are telling you, this is your life now, and you're just gonna have to manage it, like, the NHS is trying the best, but there's not always the best support there. Like there is hope. It's finding the right pieces of the jigsaw puzzle and think, thank goodness I found you, Anna. Like people
Oh.
like you and so needed, so just to keep looking and keep exploring the right answers for you because the answers are there. It's
They
just
totally are. And I want to say as well is that what I really like people to know as well is that it takes a village, and it's like you didn't only just work with me and that solved all your problems. You've done like a lot of different things and worked with various different pieces of the puzzle.
yeah,
And it's like just expect that there's not going to be like one thing that fixes everything, but really tune into what your heart tells you, and like work with the people that feel good to work with, do the things that feel good to you. And I think that's the best way to approach healing.
yeah, totally agree with you there. And I love that you're saying that from the work you do of helping people. Like it's such an authentic place to come from.
Yeah, I think it's just, especially if someone is having this kind of chronic illness experience, it can be this like, oh, well, I tried that and it didn't work for me. But I think we get a little bit from everything that we do. And sometimes the things that we invest in, maybe they don't solve all the problems, but if they solve 10% of the problem, and then we do something else and that does 20%, and so on and so on, at least that's what my journey has been like, doing all sorts of different things, and they all sort of move the needle in the right direction.
Yeah. And it's different things at different times, depending where you're up to on your journey, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you as a person and your own nervous system and your own trauma. And I'm actually writing a blog about this at the moment, about why different people get different results doing different things. So yeah, there's just so much individual variability.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But honestly, Anna, thank you so much for setting me off on my recovery journey. I'm so grateful to you.
Oh, it was such a pleasure to work with you, and I'm still like follow you on social media and see all your little updates, and it really just looks like you're thriving and doing so well. And I know that all your clients are in very loving and capable hands. So thank you so much for being here today, the first guest on the podcast. And if anybody is interested in finding out more about Ellen, I'm sure you can just click on the links, which will be in the show notes here. And yeah, give her a follow, reach out if you want any help and support. But yeah, that's everything from me today. Thank you so much, Ellen. And no doubt we'll connect again soon.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye, everyone. See you in the next episode.